Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to philosophy. Today we complete the symposium and consider the ladder of beauty and the sort of intrusion of Alcibiades at the end of the dinner party. The ladder of beauty, I believe I've explained in fair amount of detail in the notes, and it parallels very closely the divided line and the parable of the cave. So if you stay along the bottom line, right, that's the first level of the sensible, the level of images, shadows, the prisoners are tied up, and the love, as Diotima says, of a single beautiful body, or perhaps even several beautiful things and bodies. You move up one level on the line, you get to the originals, beliefs, opinions. The prisoner now sees that there's a fire. He now sees that there are people carrying puppets. And this is what Diotima is referring to when she talks about the love of all beautiful bodies, the love of beautiful souls, the love of beautiful laws, beautiful customs. So we've moved up. We're still on the sensible level. We're still in the realm of the world. We're still in the cave. Then you cross the major line, the line that moves from the sensible to the intelligible. So you move up to the third level from the bottom, and this is where you encounter, in Diotima's schema, beautiful ideas, beautiful theories, philosophy, which for her means wisdom, the love of wisdom, and ever-increasing knowledge of beauty. Same thing on the line. This is where you encounter philosophy, truth, thought, math, geometry. And here's the prisoner first getting to the mouth of the cave, first beginning to see the different kind of light, not just the light generated by the fire, but the light generated by the sun. His eyes are still dimmed. He's still seeing things very faintly, but he's coming out into the world. Then you pass into the highest level, the fourth level of the divided line and of the ladder of beauty, and this is where Diotima says we encounter the beautiful itself. And it is, in terms of the words that I've put here in the notes, for example, in number 10, the highest level of the ladder of beauty, right? Absolute, pure, unmixed form, not bodily at all. Just as when we get to the top of the line, we encounter the various forms of the things that have been seen previously, and we ultimately encounter the form of the good. The prisoner is now completely outside of the cave, and he knows the sun is there. He can glance at the sun. Obviously, we can't look at the sun for very long, and it is as though we're looking into the unseeable, the unknowable, the unapproachable. We're looking into infinity. So the form of the good, obviously, and the form of the beautiful itself does in a way stand for most religious conceptions of God. We're looking into the highest level of reality, that which makes everything possible in terms of both existence and knowledge. All beauty, all truth, all goodness. In that we normally identify with the reality of God. So you can see the ladder of beauty is, not to reuse the same word again, but I have to, a very beautiful expression of what Socrates and Diotima are ultimately trying to say that love is all about. It's not about the bodily. It's about the soul. It's about the soul's encounter with what is best, both in itself and in others and in the world itself and in greater reality. It is part of, as we'll see when we soon get to Viktor Frankl, it is part of that ultimate search for meaning which every human being engages in. So Socrates concludes his speech, and shortly after the conclusion of his speech, a very inebriated Alcibiades appears at the door. Of course, Alcibiades is coming in for rough treatment by Plato because of his history in the Athenian world. Alcibiades greets the individuals in the party with these famous philosophical words which I probably can't find for you right at the moment. Oh, here it is, 212E. Good evening, gentlemen. I'm plastered. Well, of course, that is the ridiculous image of the ridiculous figure of Alcibiades. Alcibiades is, in fact, infatuated with Socrates. He wants what Socrates has. What Socrates has, though, is wisdom. And you can't get wisdom through a bodily experience. So Alcibiades does his best to seduce Socrates, thinking in his ridiculous way that he can get something spiritual by means of something physical. So he invites Socrates over for dinner one night, and Socrates leaves as usual after dinner. So he invites him over for dinner again and makes up some excuse to try to get Socrates to stay. Finally, he gets Socrates to stay the night. Finally, he gets Socrates to go to sleep in his house. So he snuggles up next to Socrates and puts his arms around him and asks him if he's asleep, and Socrates says, of course not. Remember here that Socrates, throughout Plato's writing, but especially in terms of in the Symposium, Socrates is really represented as almost superhuman. He never seems to need to sleep, never seems to need to eat. He can drink as much as he wants. They can pass these pails around. Socrates never gets drunk. He never drinks too much. So, of course, when Alcibiades is snuggling up to them asking if he's asleep, Socrates is not asleep. You want to talk about something, Alcibiades? I'm ready. What do you want to talk about? So Alcibiades thinks he's really proud of himself. He's really proud of his body and his good looks. He thinks, oh, I've got him now. I'm right next to him. I'm snuggled up next to him, and he won't be able to resist me. After all, he's a man. I'm a man. He's a man. This is common in Greek society. But Socrates, as Alcibiades says, he turned me down. I spent the night as though I had slept next to my own brother. So Alcibiades is devastated. He can't get anywhere with Socrates, and so he finally gives up. The evening comes to an end. Everybody pretty much either leaves or goes to sleep. And Socrates stays in the discussion as long as he can. Of course, he doesn't need to sleep, but the others finally do. He's talking to Aristophanes and Agathon. So finally he gets up. He goes to the place where you bathe. He gets washed up for the day. He goes on about his business for the day. And only when the next day is ended does he go home to rest. So again, Socrates here kind of presented as a rather superhuman character. Well, the Symposium is a very fascinating study, and I hope that maybe if you've read it once now, you'll consider reading it again later in life, especially if later in life you're puzzled about questions of love. Remember to go back to the Symposium. And if you don't read the whole thing, remember at least to zero in on that section where Diotima is telling Socrates what love is all about. And it's no coincidence that Socrates in the Symposium is given his instructions in love by a woman, right? Not by a man, as the others pretty much dwelt upon. Socrates is instructed by a woman. So you see a very interesting, good picture of love in the Symposium, in the speech of Socrates and Diotima. And this completes our consideration of the Symposium. We will have one class left on Wednesday before Easter break, and at that point we will begin our consideration of Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning.